Portland's Safe Rest Village program began 3 years ago, and since its announcement, 2 Safe Rest villages have gone into operation. Soon there will be a third, the Sunderland RV Safe Park in Northeast Portland. The Salvation Army has agreed to run that facility, and here to talk about it is Major Bob Lloyd, the Salvation Army's Portland Metro Coordinator. Major Lloyd, welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and chat about the issues surrounding our vehicle residents, if you will.
Why did the Salvation Army agree to take on this project?
Well, the Salvation Army has been part of the fabric of Portland since 1886, and we've been helping people struggling with a lot of issues, homelessness being one of the primary issues, all those years. So we've been talking with the City of Portland, JOHS, for quite some time about how we can participate in making a difference in the community and trying to help in some way that would be significant. And this is where everything kind of coalesced, is on this particular issue.
How many RVs will you be able to accommodate, and will families be able to be a part of those RV setups?
We'll have 55 slots for RVs, and really that's the drop in the bucket if you talk to the Portland Bureau of Transportation, because there are hundreds of people that are needing some sort of a facility like this. But this is at least getting us started. And yes, we anticipate that there will, generally speaking, be some sort of a family unit in each of those RV units.
Now, what experience does the Salvation Army have in doing something like this?
Well, the Salvation Army actually has been operating safe rest villages up and down the coast. We have one right now in Longview, Washington, and we have a number down in California, and we're kind of between those two geographical areas. So we've been paying attention to what the Salvation Army is doing north and south of us, and this is a great opportunity to engage in this particular issue and to employ best practices that we're learning from those other units. So we're really excited to have the opportunity, but we do recognize that there are a lot of challenges ahead still.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about those challenges in a moment, but I want to point out that the recent point-in-time survey that was done shows that there are more than 5,000 people living on the streets in the Portland metro area. You say you're going to have 55 RV hookups at the Safe Rest Village. Will this make a dent in the problem at all?
Well, it'll make a dent in the problem for individuals, very much so. In fact, right now we have a man down at our Veterans and Family Residential Program who had some mental health issues. He had a friend with a trailer on some property. He lived there 26 years until this friend passed away. The children inherited the property and want to sell it. After 26 years living on this property, he had nowhere to go, no documentation. He had no rental history. So now he's living at our Veterans Family Shelter, and actually he's going to be placed here fairly soon. He has a voucher finally. But he had to learn how to socialize with people. He had to learn how to sit in the dining room with other folks. So yes, it's a huge problem, but we need to be mindful that we're talking about individuals, and this program is going to make a tremendous difference for those individuals that need that help.
What services will be provided to people who are at that Safe Rest RV Village?
Well, first of all, we'll be doing some safety assessments when they are triaged to come into the program, so we can look at their unit and make sure it's safe, because many of these units simply are not safe. You know, they have issues with their propane, they have issues with sanitation. So we need to come alongside them and make sure that they're safe right off the bat. But then we'll have wraparound services, we'll have mental health workers on site. We will have laundry facilities, a kitchen facility, laundry facilities. We want to make sure that we're providing a safe, secure environment for people who have been traumatized. It's not easy living on the street. It's not easy living in these RVs. I've already received a call from one gentleman who says he's tired of his RV being shot at, and he's tired of the threats that he's getting, and he wants to be in a safe environment. And that's really what we want to provide along with JOHS and the City of Portland.
Along those lines, what type of security will there be?
Well, we will have 24-hour staff, and we need to be mindful that we don't want to re-traumatize people, so we need to make sure that we're really focusing on safety of the site. So there will be 24/7 assistance there to provide whatever help people may need.
Now, when do you expect this site to be operational, and what do you have to do between now and then to make sure you're ready?
Well, we would really like to be open sometime in the next 60 to 90 days. There still are a lot of contractual issues to resolve. There's a lot of discussions regarding trying to foresee issues that may come up. We know that these units, a lot of them have poor sanitation units, you know, their tanks are leaking, their fuel is leaking. There's so many safety issues around some of these units that we want to know that once we bring somebody onto the site, we can address and deal with whatever those safety issues may be. So we're talking about, you know, something that will absorb oil leaks under the vehicles. Again, we're talking about making sure that the vehicles are safe so that an RV unit is not endangering the adjacent units. There's just 1,001 things to talk about. Many of these RVs actually are rat infested. And if you talk to the Portland Bureau of Transportation, they'll share stories of towing vehicles and having the rats just pour out. So we're talking about rodent control. There's just so many little details that once you sit down and you start trying to talk through it all and you chat with Portland Bureau of Transportation and they share their observations and concerns, you realize that there's a lot of complexities that you want to be prepared for before you start bringing people onto the site.
Now, we know that the Salvation Army is a religious organization. Will there be a religious component to any of the programs that you'll be offering at the Safe Rest Village?
We will likely do some sort of a religious assessment so that we understand where people are spiritually, if they have an interest or they do not have an interest. But we will not require anybody to attend a spiritual service. We will not require that they adhere to any particular faith. We would like to encourage people to reconnect with whatever their faith background may be. But we will not be expecting people to attend a Salvation Army church or wear this uniform to look just like me. You know, we want to understand each person that's coming to us, their background, their particular needs and issues, and make sure that we're providing services that are relevant to them and that will move them on to future hope.
Major Bob Lloyd, thank you for being with us on Eye on Northwest Politics, and good luck with the management of that Safe Rest Village.
Thank you. We're really excited to make a difference in our community.